Well, it's finally time. You guys have waited long enough, and I've been getting more and more questions saying, Mike, when are you going to show us an update of your green giants? I think it's been like 4 years since I originally planted those green giants. It might be 5. I could be wrong. I'll have to look back on that one. But it's been a long time, and I haven't done a green giant video in like 2 years. So we're going to make it all happen today. I'm going to show you what the latest is on the green giants in the hoop house, my cuttings from 2 years ago. And then I'll show you the progression of the green giants I've got in here and how they've been growing, as well as we'll take you out on the property, out in the front of our property there, and show you just how big those original green giants have gotten over the years. So let's start right over here. This is a big pile of green giants that I took cuttings of probably, I think these were 2 years ago in the spring, in April, right around the same time. And I let them grow through that first summer, through that first winter. They just stayed in this tote. And as you can see, I let them stay in that same tote last year as well. So they've been in this tote for 2 years since I took the cuttings. Way too long. They don't need to be in the tote this long, but I just ran out of time last year. You can see that guy was obviously dead. It was brown, but you can see I've got a ton of green viable cuttings in here. I took a big tote of these guys. I'm hoping to get like 50, 60, 70 of them out of here, get them potted up because I got a lot more property to plant them on. Now, right next to these, if you look over here, I've got a ton of bigger green giants. Now, these were actually taken 3 years ago. They were a year behind these, but as you'll notice, these guys are a lot further along. It's because I up-potted these the following year and fertilized them well and grew them on through the summer in these 1-gallon containers down here, which I didn't do in there. So this is the potential. These guys would still be a little behind these because they're a year back, but they wouldn't be so far behind like they are in that little tote if I had potted them up. But you can see how big these things have gotten in just 3 years. This is probably right at the 3-foot height, and that's from a cutting, guys, from a single cutting. Look at how, well, this one is from a single cutting. All of these were from like 70 or 80 plants, but they grow really fast if you pump the water to them. And that's something I wanted to show you when we go out to the front and you see how big these things have gotten. One of the things I've learned over the time with these is that they need more sun to fill out and really get thick and bushy. But if you give them a ton of water, they'll grow really fast. So I do have some out front in more shady areas, and you'll see that I've got some in shady areas that didn't get as much water. They just don't grow as fast. I've also got some in shady areas that grew super fast and tall, but they're not as filled out because they're not in as much sun. Let's run over here to this side of the hoop house and show you what the others look like. So here's a pile of them from 4 years ago. So these guys are actually a year ahead of the last ones I just showed you, but you can see I never pulled them out of the 1-gallon pots. They're still in the 1-gallon pots. They didn't get fertilized, and so they're relatively the same height. They get watered the same, but they're root bound almost. I need to get them out of here. In fact, let's get down here, show you. I run out of time, but look at this. Isn't that nuts? Look at that. They got roots growing out of the pots, down into the floor here, trying to find water. If I get them out of the pots, they would actually do something a little sooner. You can see I've kind of got some sparse areas in here because I have pulled a bunch out and planted them out. I just haven't gotten to all of them yet. So the more water, the more sun, and the faster you get them out of those pots and put into some good soil, the better off you're going to be. They're going to grow like crazy. And when I take you out there, you'll see that there are some that have been more neglected. They've been in shadier areas. They have not gotten as much water, and some of them are kind of stunted. I'm not worried about it over time. I mean, I'm here for the long haul. Those things over time are going to grow up really big and tall. It's just a matter of getting everything established on this property, and then I can go back and add more water here, or, you know, try to limb trees up and get a little more sun and do things like that to tweak it. But we'll show you the comparison on some that are getting more sun, more water, less sun and less water, and show you. I've got some that are 3 foot tall out on that front of the property from, you know, they were planted way back in the beginning, and some of them that are like 9 feet tall on the front of the property. So let's go get this tote of these guys out of here and once and for all pot them up so they can start growing like the rest of these. look at these things, man, just covered in tons of roots down there. They're just all intertwined and all mixed together. So it's gonna be a little bit of a pain to pull them apart here, but you can see, if we grab this guy and look at it, lots of good, healthy, strong roots. Those roots are very hardened off. They've gone through a couple years now. You can see the nice little roots there at the tips. They're just fine little tiny roots just starting to grow. Those are the feeder roots. But those brown roots, not the white ones, but the brown ones, are the tough, hard roots that have gone through a couple years. And these things are gonna be just fine. I just need to get them up potted, but what a mess we've got. We gotta get through all this. Absolutely nuts. Look at how many of those things we got. I probably should have counted them, but you know what? I don't like to count my chickens before they hatch. So we'll get all of these potted up into 1-gallon pots, and hopefully I got enough bark left. But we'll get them all potted up and show you what they look like. This is where persistence and determination pays off. All right, so there they are. We got 117 of these, if I did my math right, and that was a lot of work, but check it out. It's all finished up. And these guys, I fertilized them. We did some pre-emergent on them, and they'll just go through the summer now. We'll just keep them watered, and they will be probably a foot tall or more by the end of this summer. Be ready to plant out on the property or sell or do whatever we want with them next year. All right, so let's head out front real quick and show you guys an update of the green giants. All right, so there's the view from the front of my property. Those are the original green giants that you guys saw me plant. And here they are. I mean, take it for what it is. They're not completely filled in yet. You can see rhododendrons out throughout the, in between these trees, but they are much bigger than when I planted them. I don't know if you guys have been following for a while, but these things like right here, this particular one is probably, it's probably 9 or 10 foot tall at the very top. Now I've noticed the top couple feet are a little more sparse, but they start really filling in as they put on some size. So let's walk down this little path and show you just how big they are. I mean, so here's one of the taller ones right here. I'm standing right up against this thing, and there's the top of my hand, and it's still a good foot and a half above the top of my hand. Pretty crazy how tall these things have gotten. They actually, I've seen a couple different variations of these trees. I've seen some that grow thicker and more compact, and some that they grow out more and just more kind of flowing and natural. And this is the kind that I really like. This one that just isn't quite so compact, because I'm planning on these just getting massive over time, and they will eventually hedge everything out. I mean, if you look down lower on these trees, they're already starting to put on some thickness and really fill out down here. You give these a few more years and they're going to put on some serious size. Now this side's a little different. They're still tall. These ones are probably 8 foot tall at the very peak, but you can see that some of them aren't grown as, actually these were cuttings of the original. So these were planted a couple of years after these. That's why that's not really a fair comparison. I kind of planted a second row inside here, but the ones out here were the original ones that I bought from that nursery in Florida. And you can see I kind of started a second row all the way down, but they're so much shorter. But these ones right here, they get a lot more shade because we've got all these huge fir trees up here. And then they also have to compete for water. So these ones are not growing as fast over on this side. They get, just more shade, less water. And so we'll see what happens over time. Some of these, as you can see, are only, 3 foot tall. This guy right here is kind of depressing. Those deer, they don't eat these things at all, at least not on my property, but they come through with their racks and just rough these guys up so much. It drives me crazy. So I need to repair that one. And then there's another one over here I need to repair. I think we'll be able to get those back together. But you can see how short some of these guys are. This one's probably only 4 foot right there. Isn't that crazy? Crazy the difference in how much, they grow or don't grow based on sun or shade and how much you water them. Now I do have some trees growing in more shade, but the biggest thing that I've noticed is the water. I don't actually water these trees out here. I water the rhododendron beds, but I've got so much to water around here that I just don't have the time to water all of these throughout the whole summer. I think if I had some kind of a drip irrigation going down the whole property, they would do much better and shoot off. And I'll show you in a second why I feel that way. I still am in love with these trees. I think I'm just not watering them as much as I could. Over time, we don't plan on going anywhere. So over time, it'll all, work out in the end. And I'm sure those will be big, nice, healthy trees. Eventually, I'll get around to get more water to them. But yeah, I really believe that they just need a ton of water. Now here's an example of some trees that are in more shade, but they get a ton of water because I water all these rhododendrons from the other side over there. And these just, as a result, get a lot of water. And you can see this one's probably 8 foot tall right here at the very tip. And if you look at this one over here, that's not actually a green giant, that's a cedar, and it's probably like 16 foot high. But and it's been there a lot longer. But these green giants, they're really taken off, even in the shade. They're growing a little more sparse, you can see in the shade, but they're just growing really tall. And eventually they'll fill in, turn into nice trees. Just takes a little bit longer in the shade. So I'll show you something. I actually decided to keep going with these. I love these green giants so much. I planted a little one that I propagated a few years ago, last year, fertilized it. It got 1 season of growth. It was just trying to get established really, so it's not that tall. It's probably only 2 foot tall there. And then at the end of the season, that was planted in spring last year. At the end of the season, I decided to plant one more right here, and you can see it's starting to green up more, but it was in the hoop house. It was root bound, and so it's looking not quite as green and healthy as that one, but it hasn't gone through a growing season yet either. I'm sure that we'll get really good results of this thing just taking off like that one did this summer. And then if we follow along over here on the other side of the pump house, you can see I'm in love with these green giants so much. I just planted them all the way down this whole fence line here. Now these are, once again, these were just small little green giants. They were all cuttings that I did off the original ones and decided to plant them out. So they haven't had a season of growing outside here yet through the summer, but they'll get it this year and they'll get really good and established. Eventually we'll have this massive hedge here with the rhodies on the other side. Pretty cool. Now this will be a nice testament to what these green giants will do, because these are closer to the house and to rhodie beds, and I plan on watering this row right here a lot more frequently as kind of a test, really, more than anything. I want to see if I can get them growing faster and thicker. They're in more sun. They've got lots of sun through here. There's one tree that's creating some shade, but I kind of have a feeling that we're going to be able to really see what these things can do in this bed, or along this fence line as we go. So there's where we were. Now you can see I've planted these things all the way down Even popped a couple in there and there. I need to get another one in over here. And what I'd like to do is just follow this down and plant them, keep going all the way down the fence line and out to the orchard. You can see the hoop house over there, but I'd like to go all the way down and then along the fig orchard around the side over there. So I got lots of planting left to do. All right, so there it is. I am tired. That was a lot of green giants to pot up, but now we've got them. The work is done and we can enjoy all of that beauty on this property. I don't think I'm going to sell those. I really like how they look, and I think give them a few more years up front. I think that we're going to see some really beautiful plants that are just full and big and a nice little barrier from the road. So I think I'm going to keep these and I'm going to plant them out along the side of the property like I always wanted to, and originally when we bought these. But I think I desperately need, I know I desperately need a better watering system for all of those. I spend so much time watering the rhododendrons that I just don't get to the green giants along the front. And so they basically only get rainwater, and it has not been raining a lot through the summer here in this state. So we'll see what happens as time goes by. I'll get them planted out. Although my oldest daughter has been saying that she really likes the Leyland cypress. Is it cypress or cypress? I can never remember which is the country and which is the plant. But we'll be looking into that option as well for one side of the property. If we do that, I will show it to you at some point. Anyway, I think that satisfies, I hope it satisfies all of your guys' desires to see the green giants, because I've been getting hounded for a while now. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, you know what to do. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to follow along and see more updates in 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.